outside. I'm so grateful to be warm. So today I want to jump into a little reading by Emmett Fox. I think it's a perfect foundational topic for anyone who is considering any kind of spiritual conversation. It's called Getting Results by Prayer, but it's not necessarily about prayer, but it's about something very important. Prayer is a tool of your mind. And the more you understand sort of, if you want to, the rules of this game and how to use the tools you've been given in order to maximize your results in any area of your life, the more effective you're going to be and the happier you're going to be with what's being drawn to you. And I think he's got a really great foundational perspective here if you're in the game of exploration. So let's start. A great deal of confusion seems to exist in many minds concerning the precise avenue through which the divine power is to be approached and realization and harmony attained. A lot of confusion. And I think in the West, we kind of have two paths. We feel there's like the sort of Christian sentient God that created you to prove your worth. You're a little bit subservient. You got to figure out if you're going to eternal, salvation or damnation. And then there's this other path that's kind of atheistic and like you were in an accident. And they're very extreme and they both have pros and they both have some cons. And I love here how he's approaching spirituality from a much more logical perspective, that there's many paths and your job is to find your own. So many schools of thought seem to be competing for the attention of the student. So busy is the printing press. So many new books and pamphlets are written. So many magazines come and go. The people have told me that they've felt quite in despair of ever discovering what it really is, what they really must do to be saved. Course in Miracles talks about this a lot, that we look for salvation everywhere outside of ourselves. But that's not where it is. Where is it? Let's read on. Sometimes it seems as though the story of Babel were repeating itself in the metaphysical movement. Even the internet is kind of like the Tower of Babel, right? And yet we all know in our hearts that the true gate is narrow and the way straight. One well-known Eastern teacher of great spiritual power has actually published a pamphlet from which it appears that the genuine criterion of authenticity is to have no path at all. This is the reductio ad absurdum, which pulls us up short and restores the light. The truth, of course, is this, that the only solution of the problem is definitely to contact the divine power which dwells within your own soul. And having consciously done that, to bring it to bear upon the various difficulties in your life, taking them in due order, that is, attacking the most urgent first. This is the right way of working, and it is the only way that can possibly help you or your affairs in the long run. The real remedy for every one of your difficulties is, as we are told on every page of the Bible, to find and know the indwelling presence. So not some God in a chair up there, out there, but what is the divine light that is in you? It's truly what every spiritual tome is talking about, certainly the Bible too, but that's about the journey to your own connection with your divinity within. Can't be found without. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace, it says. In his presence is fullness of joy. Behold, I am with you always. We think it's something out there. And it's very difficult for us to understand that these things come from within, and the void that we seek an external solution to is internal, and our own resistance to realizing that we have access to it ourselves, and that the path is going to be a little bit different for each person. This then is the task, and the only one, to find and consciously know your indwelling Lord. You see now how the confusion disappears, melts away, and the perfect simplicity of the whole thing emerges once you realize this fact. From this, it is necessarily follows that all schools and churches, all teachers, under whatever name they may be called, all textbooks, magazines, pamphlets, and whatnot, are but temporary expedients for enabling you to make this contact. In themselves, they are of no importance except as a means to an end. The best mode of approach to divine things for you is the one that happens to make it easiest for you to locate the inner light within yourself. In other words, stop trying to listen to what everybody tells you is right and what you need to do. This is about you finding a connection with you and you following your own path and realizing that it's going to evolve. It's not going to stay the same. Certainly my path has evolved, but it's important to try what works for you. That's why there are so many options. To me, a loving God wouldn't create variety unless there were a variety of ways to find and connect with it, right? If there was only one path to salvation and God was a loving God, God would have created one type of being that particular path worked for every type of being, but it wasn't created that way. This is a land of variety. This is a game of variety, a world of variety. So there must be a variety of paths and solutions to the spiritual dilemma, one that works for each person. So rather than finding the right answer with the most followers, you have to find what resonates with you right now and realize that that may change as you go, but it's about finding your own path of least resistance that your inner being is leading you on. Such things as temperament, education, family tradition, and so on will make one book or one teacher or one school more useful than another, but never as anything more than the means to a certain end. That end is effective self-discovery. Man, know thyself, thy true self, which is the divine I am. And so we see that the best movement, the finest textbook, the greatest teacher is just one that happens to best fit the individual need. It is entirely a practical matter, and the only test that ever could or ever will be of any use is the practical one of judgment by results. Of course, Jesus anticipated this difficulty and met it as he has met all of our difficulties. He gave us the simple and perfect standard: by their fruits ye shall know them. So from this method of thought, Jesus is someone who followed this journey to a T, to the point where he fully discovered his own divinity and was able to express it on this plane, not just in the spiritual plane, but in the physical plane, which is really the goal for each of us, is to discover salvation during life. That's me. That's what I think. I'm not telling you what to think. But because he walked the journey, he knew a lot about the tripping hazards, if you will, along it. And it's a great point to say you'll know what people are up to by what their fruits of their life are. So often now we believe what people say, we want them to check a box, and we're going off what people say rather than what they do, rather than knowing the fruits of their life, especially because we have so many modalities of expression that are a bit inauthentic, so to speak. Like, I'm on a camera, you really don't know that much about my life. That's one reason I try to be really authentic, be it, coming on with no makeup on, or I'm like, this is a fake medium. I want to be more real, and I want to share some of that mess that's going on in my life, because anyone who's putting on this perfect presentation is not sharing the truth of their life. It's so easy to say one thing and do another. And in our society, we really seem to want that almost from people. I mean, look at our politicians, our priests. It's like everyone's pretending to be something they're not, because we're not looking at the fruits of their life. We're listening to what they say they believe, but what they truly believe is going to show up in their actions. Actions speak louder than words, as their fruits. By their fruits ye shall know them. Same line. It's in our day-to-day actions that we know what somebody's truly up to. And then that shows up in their life. The fruits of their labor. What are their relationships like? What is their life like? Who are they really? Words don't mean that much. It's our results that really reflect our intentions, come from our belief, our energy and motivation. And so it's such a key component of who people are, to know them and to know who they really are, not just what they say. And I feel like it's caused us so much sort of wasted effort, even our society. Take politics, constantly believing what someone says and not looking at who they really are. And then when anybody says, well, they don't live that way, we go, oh, well, they're a liar. That person's a liar. I want to believe what this person's telling me. So I'm not going to listen to someone who knows this person in real life or look at anything they're actually up to, like in their bank account. That would be a great way to know the fruits of of what someone is up to, right? Where does their money come from? Where is it flowing? Yeah. So anyway, so it's an interesting thing where, and even so often I feel this does impact the Christian world, where people are saying people are perfect because they're checking this box, and because they believe this one thing, and because they say they're Christian, I back them and believe them. And you're like, but that isn't enough. Jesus said, by their fruits ye shall know them, not by their words, right? You're going to know who people are by what shows up in their life and how they behave. And that's really what we need to look to. Not that they checked a box and said they believed the right things, but a lot of Christianity is built on that. As long as I believe the right things, I'll get into heaven. And I think it doesn't serve Christians very well, because the true path is walking the path to disconnecting with your own divinity within. If I can just say I believe this and I check this box and I check that box and I get into heaven, I don't have to do that work and walk that real path of that real connection. I think I check these boxes and then I'm just given it. And that does people a disservice, because this is to really get the juicy things in life. It's about really walking that road and being committed and showing up in a new way. And so I guess I'll split that reading into two parts. I don't want it to get too long. So we'll start there, just remembering the importance of actions speaking louder than words, and you asking yourself, what am I really up to? What are the results in my life? What relationships do I have? How do I show up? What are my motivations? And if my life and my results show a lot of destruction, then I have a more negative, nihilistic come from. And maybe it's time to restore some love and hope that can come from walking this divine journey. But no one can give it to you, and not a specific path. There isn't an easy out here. Not that this is difficult once you figure out the rules, but the exploration process of finding out what you believe the rules to be and then applying those when you've been living something completely different, it takes time. It takes some investment. I always say, if you're willing to research fashion and what you like to wear, do your spirituality the same way. Why do we say that's weak and you have to accept these certain paths I'm giving you? No, you should be exploring, same way you would a good pair of jeans, what spirituality works for you, what path works for you, so you can connect to your own inner divine light. And thank you so much for being here. Stay warm today, and we'll dig in a little deeper in round 2. Bye-bye.